listening to the Pillaging Podcast, companion podcast to PillagingJustForFun.com, the only Raider fan site made by Raider fans for Raider fans. Tune in every week on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher Radio. Call in and leave a message to be played on air at 408-909-PJFF. This episode brought to you by Creative Media Design Studio. Check them out at CreativeMediaMonterey.com. It's time to pillage another podcast. I'm your host, Kenny Stapler. What's cracking, Jay?
Man, it's been a good week. Other than the weekend. I'm playing rec league, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Basketball.
Basketball.
Round ball.
Yeah, round ball.
How'd it go?
That round ball. Nah, it hasn't gone so well.
No.
We dropped two, man. We dropped one this week and this past weekend and the weekend before. Similar start last season. We had a pretty crappy start to our season. I think we went 0-3. And then we ended up in the championships game. So let's hope for the same.
Hey, are you going to pull the Derek Carr? Is it all on you?
No. My knees don't have that in them anymore. But I'll definitely be yelling at people, man. That's my thing. I'm kind of like the coach. I'm like the player coach. I'm like Jackie Moon out there.
You like Cable Guy? Oh, we playing prison rules? Well, don't get out of pocket on the court. And don't get out of pocket on this podcast. I'm happy to announce the Pillaging Podcast has joined the Out of Pocket Podcast Network. We're linked up with the By Any Means Pod.
There you go.
Hosted over there by Phil Robinson III and Andrea, I believe is her name, co-host over there. Pretty cool show. Check them out. Make sure you guys check them out. You go to outofpocketnetwork.com to find them. I believe they're broadcasting on Speaker. The Speaker app. So we'll be joining that. We'll be staying put. Nothing's really going to change, but we are a part of that network. So we got family now.
There we go. It's all about family, man.
It's all about family. And a big thank you to our family of listeners out there that continues to grow every week. Very humbled by your guys' support, and it's cool, man. It's cool.
Yeah.
I think when we started this show out, it was maybe 100 listeners, 150 listeners a week, and it's really grown. So it
was really just so we could listen to it.
Yeah, pretty much, man.
Hey, that was pretty good, man. We did a pretty good job.
We did. I listen to a lot of podcasts. You listen to a lot of podcasts. We both love the Raiders. It just seemed I have a studio.
Makes sense.
I was like, hey, so here we are now. So shout out to them, and make sure you check them out. Let's hold each other down. And if you're just now joining us and you've never heard us before, but you listen to By Any Means or you listen to other shows on the Out of Pocket Network, welcome.
Yeah. Welcome. The more the merrier, man. We appreciate it.
And if you're not a Raider fan, just shut your mouth.
Yeah, tune out, man. Tune out.
Yeah, just don't get out of pocket. So you ready to start this?
Let's do it.
The Raiders hire Tom Cable. Yeah. He's back.
Yeah.
So the last time he was here, he made quite an impact on Randy Hansen.
Yeah, he did, man.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
I don't want his wife to come on here and delete this podcast.
Allegedly. Yeah.
I'll say it again. Yeah, I don't want his wife to come on here and delete this episode. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google it, Wikipedia, all that. His wife apparently deleted the entry where they were talking about the alleged charges.
Oh, really?
I guess charges never stuck.
Well,
so
they kind of kept it real hush too. Like I think even when it happened or allegedly happened, right?
Yeah.
The media had some questions and they were just kind of like, mum's the word.
So a lot of skepticism, criticism of Tom Cable. Big proponent of the zone blocking scheme. I know.
Mm-hmm.
Triggered.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are triggered.
Triggered.
PTSD from the Todd Downing era. I'll say this much right now. We're going to get into this probably a little bit later. Not every zone blocking scheme is the same. Was I a fan of it when he was here the first time? No, I wasn't. McFadden was not living up to his full potential. But we'll see. I mean, as we know, John's going to be calling the shots. Cable can be a versatile offensive line coach. I know he can run power. When Jackson showed up as his OC, he asked McFadden when he wanted to run. He said power. They switched to power. He became top 10 rusher in the league.
There you go.
When Hugh took over, McFadden was number 1 rusher in the league before he got hurt.
Right.
So hopefully, and I'll use this word again, Tom's willing to pivot. I said it after week 3. Pivot. And it turned out we didn't. and you saw what happened. And I kept telling you that was the reason. That was the reason. As it turns out that was the reason why everybody lost faith in this coaching staff. I'm starting to get off track here.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm getting out of pocket.
Getting out of pocket, man.
But Tom's back. Good or bad, we yet to see. Here's what I got to say about this, though. A few weeks ago, we hired John Gruden.
Yes, we did.
Everybody had us in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then we hired Tom Cable, and all of a sudden we're 7-9.
Come on, y'all. Where's the faith, man? Wait, stick to your guns.
Bro, he doesn't have that much juice.
If you're gonna throw out those numbers, man, you gotta stick to your guns.
Oh.
You saw me. I stuck through it, and it went bad really quick for me.
It did.
But I stuck to it, man.
Real fast. Oh, we're going to Super Bowl. Oh, shine up them trophies, boys. To Tom Cable. Tom Cable. Look.
Yo, you know what, though, man? I got to say this. I did like Tom Cable. I felt like he got something out of our guys. Like, he pulled some fire out of their asses and actually got them doing something more positively. Remember when he took over the head coaching job? We had a pretty decent season.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to what we had done before that.
We weren't losers anymore.
Right. And I think, if I'm not wrong, that was the season where we actually we went undefeated in the AFC West. We swept the West.
Yeah.
And we still didn't make playoffs. But we swept the West. So there was something there.
Yeah.
And I think I think it's good to have him on staff for those reasons.
Yeah.
Obviously, like you said, Gruden's the one's going to call the shots. And if he wants to run power, then Cable, guess what? You're going to have to run power, bro.
And luckily, Cable won't be putting Rolando McClain on Antonio Gates in coverage on a play that would decide our playoff destiny.
Yeah.
Triggered again. I'm just another phone out the window right now. Hold on to your phones. Newcomers, hold on to your phones, okay? Make sure you get a nice grippy case because we're going to trigger you a few times here in this offseason.
You have to get that the little clip with the string that they put on the baby's pacifiers and clip that to your phone, man. So that way, if you throw it, it doesn't go too far. It sticks to you.
13 Raiders assistants were announced today, and I'm going to go into detail on all of them right now. I'm allocating 15 minutes. Just kidding. A piece? No. Yeah, some good names in the mix. Tom Cable's one of them. Jim O'Neill, senior defensive assistant. We now have a director of football research, Dave Rosano. When's the last time we had a director of football research?
I don't know, man. I never knew that position existed. Within our agency or in our agency. Now I'm thinking work. I'm thinking actual work, man.
So I mean, it sounds like a fun job. Mike Trovac, I don't know how to pronounce this. Is a TR and a G right next to each other. Defensive line coach. People are high on this guy. I'll be honest with you. I don't know who Mike Turgovac is. I don't know. It's his name.
Help us out, man.
But a guy that I am big on is Derek Ansley, defensive back coach. Great defensive back coach coming out of, I believe, the college ranks, if I'm right. I like the guy. David Lippincott is probably the best name in the mix here because I can pronounce it and it rolls off the tongue nice. I don't know, man. I'm not going to say I'm an expert on all these guys. I'm like the everyman's podcast host. Okay?
There you go.
Jamal Singleton, running backs coach, I believe from Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Worked with Gore most recently. So there's some good names in the mix there. You can check it out. I'm reading this on the NBCsports.com/Bay Area website. They got a pretty good write-up here. He was Derek Ansley was right. It was coaching over at the University of Alabama. Crimson Tide, they won the BCS National Championship, as you know. Pedigree there, so blah, blah, blah. Yeah, 13 assistants. Mel Kiper mocks Roquan Smith to the Raiders in his mock draft.
Okay.
Mel Kiper.
Okay.
Todd! Che told me before we started I got to do a whole podcast as Mel Kiper.
There you go.
I just don't have the hair for it, bro.
It's okay, man. We haven't gotten to YouTube yet. Yet.
And that's coming. We will be on YouTube within the next couple months. By the start of next season, for better or for worse, you can watch us live video feed, unedited.
And I will get you pomade so you can get that good slick.
There we go.
In your hair, man.
Yeah. So he's mocking Smith to us. I've seen Smith go higher in some of the mocks. Definitely an all-around linebacker. Great in coverage. Speedy dude.
Yeah.
Didn't have much of a showing in the first half of the championship game. was all over the field in the second half, really turned it up and helped them get to that overtime and eventually seal that victory. So, Roquan Smith, we'll be coming at you with our picks, our mock-ups, starting with the first round, probably next week. We'll be talking a little bit about it with Austin Gale tonight, who's our guest. He's coming right up. Austin Gale from Pro Football Focus. You want to know where all those grades come from, those crazy scores, those enigmatic numbers. Hopefully we find out today.
Yeah, we're curious too.
I just picture this big, like really big computer.
Right?
And it's just like
old school, like 1960s, like it took up a whole room computer. Just computing out these numbers, man.
It's either that or it's Conky from Pee Wee's Playhouse. It's one of the two.
What is it?
Yeah, when they say the PFF score, you got to scream real loud. Ah! Yeah. What happened to the Rooney Rule infraction? Something was supposed to happen, right?
Like I said, man. Come on now. Go somewhere else with that. Go somewhere else with that, man. You're barking up the wrong tree.
Why don't you go interview all the teams that have never had a minority GM or even a minority GM prospect and then come back to me?
There you go.
Fuck out of here.
Get out of here with that shit.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that's still coming down the pike. I have no idea, but it's awfully quiet over here on the West.
It's very quiet.
Right.
Like I said, I wasn't stressing about that, man. Come on now. Really? It's the Raiders you're talking about, man.
Yeah.
The Raiders you're talking about. Do I have to remind you of who? No. Come on now.
So Austin, Mr. Gale, he just slid up in the DM. He says he's ready to go.
All up in the DMs.
All up in the DMs. Yeah, this podcast, you don't have to worry about your producer being all up in the videos. You know, well, I'll be on that YouTube video. I'll be on that one.
There you go.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. Hey, listeners, man, tweet at us. Call in 408-909-PJFF. We get a lot of great calls every week. I want to hear some new voices next week. That's my challenge to all of our listeners. I want to hear somebody new. I want to hear one new voice next week. Hey, that voice line is open right now. You can call right now for next week, and we will get you on. Just drop your message in there. Will we be taking live callers? Probably not ever. I've done that before.
It'd be nice, but yeah.
I don't have a call screener. That's the end of that story. But we will take your pre-recorded messages. We will have call-in guests, however. So if you feel like you got something to say, you can hit me up on Twitter. You can hit me up at the email pillagingjustforfun@gmail.com. There's a number 4 in there, by the way. Or just come on the blog, man. We got commenters night and day. I think we start around 4 o'clock in the morning. Things die down around 11 p.m. It's all day Raider talk. Sometimes it gets a little out of pocket in there. Hey, people
it gets out there, dude. It gets out there.
It's wild, right? Yeah, I've had a couple people come by and they hit me up. They're like, "Your boys are weird, man." Well, that's right. We keep it weird.
It's all good. It's all good.
We keep it weird. Yeah,
we're accepting over here, man. We're accepting over here.
I like it, man. You can go in there, blow off steam. The good thing about that is you can come in our comment section, talk about anything. You're not going to get blasted. Well, Frisky is going to greet you. If you can make it through that, welcome aboard. We put him there for a reason. Friskies, if you're listening, I love you, bro. You're the man. So anyways, without further ado, let's get Austin Gale on here, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, when we come back, Austin Gale. All right, we got Austin Gale on here from Pro Football Focus. Welcome aboard, Austin.
Thanks for having me on, man. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. We're honored to have you. Can you let the folks know how they can find you, how they can follow you, where they can read your stuff?
Definitely. So yeah, go ahead and follow me at AustinGale_PFF. That's AustinGale_PFF. And if you're interested in reading some of my articles, of course, I'm writing for Pro Football Focus. And then if you're Cincinnati based, which Pro Football Focus is, given that Chris Collinsworth, Mr. Cincinnati, that's kind of where we want to headquarters up. But I also write for the Cincinnati Enquirer, do some Cincinnati Bearcat stuff here and there.
Cool. So a very well-rounded individual. And I read from your bio, you're also a Raiders fan.
Oh, diehard, man. Born and raised in Oakland, and had season tickets up until I left for school at San Diego State.
We like that.
I like the San Diego State too, man. That's my old school. That's my old school.
That's your alma mater.
Yes, it is.
Nice. Go Aztecs.
Yeah, go Aztecs, man.
Yeah, go Aztecs. I was a banana slug. We have no football team, so I can say that. I can say that. I'm not burning any bridges by saying that. So, Austin, let's get right into it. Just to clear the air, kind of before we get started, Pro Football Focus, how long have you guys been on the scene? How long has PFF been in existence?
That's kind of a more gray area question than it kind of sounds off to be. But we've been pulling data since 2006. However, the founders have been working on the algorithms and working on like the grading and things like that a little bit before that, since maybe 2002, 2003. But in terms of where our data dates back to and how much that in terms of NFL, it goes back to 2006. For college data, it goes back to 2014. And just this year, I'm not sure if you're aware, we started to dive into the high school realm, which we're working on local high schools here in Ohio.
Oh, that's crazy. I picture your headquarters has like the giant computer from Superman 3 inside of it.
Not yet. We're still waiting to get that shipped from Amazon.
So I guess the question that's been on my mind, because I'm a fan of what you guys do, and I understand that your scores aren't gospel. They're not speaking the absolute truth of what we see on the field all the time. But a lot of times they can back that up, and a lot of times they can expose things that we're not seeing over a longer period. So in a nutshell, I know this is complicated stuff, but from what you understand, where do these numbers come from? How are you guys calculating this stuff? And how do we end up with the final number that we're seeing on the interwebs?
Of course, yeah. So contrary to popular belief, people kind of set us on the side of the analytics versus film argument on the analytics side. But all of our analytics, all of our grades, and our statistics come from film. We're one of the only companies that watches every single play for every player in every game, and through that, with that such an emphasized look, such an in-depth look at the game, we're able to pull accurate information that other box score lenient, sites like ESPN and CBS and NFL.com aren't able to pull, because they're, not able to watch, don't have the bandwidth per se. Well, NFL does, but don't have the bandwidth to watch as in depth as we do. So in terms of statistics, that's where all of our statistics are. As for our grading, the 0 to 100 grades are actually the product of an algorithm from our original, our standard grading system, which runs on a -2 to +2 scale. So for every play, each player receives a score or rating from -2 to +2 at a 0.5 increment. So -2, -1.5, -0.5, 0. Yeah, you get where I'm going there. Yeah. And with that comes into the play where our senior analyst is kind of core of super smart guys and super football savvy dudes are able to dictate every play for each player, whether it was on, what side of that scale it was on. And with that, person with the highest score, the highest cumulative score, will end up getting, normalized to a 0 to 100 grade. That's obviously the highest one for that position. And does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. Luckily, Che's a math wizard.
No, I'm not.
Hey, stop writing all this stuff down. It's proprietary. Just put the notepad away. This guy over here, he thinks he's going to take over. It's good to have a partner with lofty goals. Thanks for clearing that up. Like you say, there's a lot of debate between the PFF score and the eye test. They don't always match up. But in my opinion, it's still good to have both. It's good to have the measuring stick. It's good to have all of these numbers, all these analytics. And, if you're a viewer, if you're a fan, if you're watching, if you're a commenter, if you're a writer, you want as much information at your disposal as possible. And I think what PFF is doing is invaluable, and it's unique to what they do. Nobody else has anything like this. And so I value it. I look forward to the scores that come out every week. I like the game-to-game scores. I personally enjoy it. Do I always agree with it? No, but I still enjoy what you guys do. So I appreciate it. And I especially appreciate the work that you do.
Absolutely. And when you bring up the eye test, what the eye test kind of suffers from is a lot of biases, whether it be a favorite team bias, favorite player, recency bias, which is one of the biggest things with the eye test, is where I saw the guy dominate in the national championship, like Daron Payne. Daron Payne had an amazing game, 5 run stops, over almost 9 pressures there, amazing game. But just because he had such a good game, we can't pull that and add that to his overall grade for the season more so than we did for the rest of his games previously. That recency bias can affect a lot of people's eye test, quote unquote, just like, like you see Stephon Diggs have a breakout game and you start to say he's the best receiver in the NFL. And, you start to see these conversations pop up, but allowing the grades and that kind of bipartisan look at the game that the grades present, especially when they're done by a combination of different analysts, it kind of keeps you from a lot of the biases that come up in, the eye test and casual film study.
Yeah, unless you have like NFL Game Pass, you don't have access to the coach's film. And even if you do, there's very few people out there that are concentrating on one player every down for every single game to really nail it down. These guys are doing the heavy lifting for you. So whether you buy into it or not, consider it and take it into your opinion heavily. Just look at it. A lot of it, if you're watching the broadcast, a lot of these guys you don't even see on camera, especially plays that are happening downfield. The camera follows the ball. So you're not picking up on every player, every play like you think you are. There's a lot that's actually being missed. I don't care how many times you rewind your DVR. You could burn that controller out. You're still not going to see everything. So I like to use the coach's film. I like to use the PFF scores, and I try to read as many breakdowns as possible. Am I opinionated? Am I biased? Yes, I'm human. Yes, I'm a Raiders fan. We're like the most biased out there. We've been going to the Super Bowl every offseason for the last 17 years. Get over yourself, Raiders fan. Listen to my man Austin here. He knows what he's talking about. So let's dig a little bit deeper. Tom Cable was the big hire this week. His name is back on Oakland papers, Bay Area papers. We didn't think it would happen, but here it is. He's happened. He's considered to be one of the top offensive line coaches in the NFL. Some people think it's a great get for John Gruden. The rest of Raider Nation are jumping off of buildings right now. My question to you is, what are we to expect this time around? There's a lot of criticism landing in his lap about basically hiring another zone blocking scheme guy. After what we saw under Todd Downing, I can understand some of the grief that the fan base is going through. Is Tom's scheme the same? Should we expect different results? From what I'm hearing, it's not the traditional zone blocking scheme and something a little bit different. Can you speak to this? What's his O-lines graded out as? I mean, what are we to expect out of Tom Cable?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And if we want to look at, if we want to put the blanket term on Tom Cable that he's a zone blocking coach and that's what we're going to get, you're going to be upset. But that is just too broad of a view, too broad of a take. It's going to be, unlike what Tom Cable's previous stint with the Raiders, it's not his show. It's going to be John Gruden's show, and Tom Cable is taking part in it. And with that being said, John Gruden, who's one of the best football minds, especially on the offensive side of the ball, paired with a guy like Tom Cable, can come together to develop a scheme that will obviously involve a lot of zone blocking, whether it be inside zone, outside zone, pull and pin, and things like that, that fits the offensive line, unlike a young, inexperienced first-year offensive coordinator like Todd Downing. He wasn't able to see the strengths and weaknesses of the offensive line and adapt to them with his zone blocking scheme, rather than kind of running that blanket outside zone scheme that you see in most, kind of elementary, offensive lines. And with Tom Cable now under John Gruden's wing, two great football minds, they should be able to work together to more effectively create a rushing scheme that can involve outside zone without impairing the offensive line. And the way that works is not all outside zone needs to have the tackle, guard, and center running that stretch reach block. You can run a lot of pull and pin with bunch formations, pre-snap motion, tight ends moving around in the backfield, fullback usage, which we did not see last year. Jameis Olawale under Bill Musgrave had 200-plus offensive snaps. Yeah. With Todd Downing, 80 offensive snaps. Just completely forgotten in the offense. It doesn't make sense. And that's the type of things that John Gruden and Tom Cable aren't going to overlook. And that's why looking at this second year, second time around with Tom Cable, you have to be a little bit more excited than what he was, in previous years.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Let me remind people too, because under Bill Musgrave, we ran a zone blocking scheme at times. You weren't mad when we were doing that. You weren't mad when Lat was running in the inside zone and the outside zone. It was working for us back then. Like you said, you can mix and match your zone blocking scheme. You can do a lot of different things with it. In Seattle, Tom Cable was using the double tight end quite a bit. It puts a lot of pressure on defenses when you see two tight ends there, and then you send one in motion. They got to commit. They got to commit to their shift. You get to shift again. It puts a lot of power in the offense's hands when you're using pre-snap motion and you're mixing up your looks. The zone blocking scheme allows you to be very multiple when it comes to your offensive packages. And that's the benefit
And when
of his own blocking scheme.
Absolutely. And when you look at Musgrave's outside zone scheme and compare it to Todd Downing's, Musgrave used a lot more, upwards of 50, a majority of pull and pin, allowing his tackles and tight ends to do down blocks rather than reach blocks, and allowing his interior offensive lineman, guard, center to pull around and play the pull game rather than doing the reach blocks. When you look at Todd Downing's, less than 50% of those plays were pull and pin, where they were having tackles do down blocks and things like that. Donald Penn is a great down blocker. Donald Penn is not a good reach blocker. The same goes to say with Kelechi Osemele, who had one of the worst run blocking grades of his career. Same goes with Gabe Jackson, who had a career low year in terms of run blocking. Rodney Hudson even didn't have his best year. It didn't fit well with them, and I just don't see a Gruden Cable combo that doesn't fix that. That doesn't watch the tape and see the mishaps and see the weakness and not address it directly right away.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think under Downing was a lot of stand up and catch the defender. It was very straightforward zone blocking scheme, and I didn't like it at all. And we saw it. I mean, the first 2 weeks you liked it. You liked it. The first 2 weeks the results were good. We didn't pivot. We stayed the same. It was elementary. It was way too simple, and teams caught on. And there you have it. It showed up in Washington, and it followed us the rest of the season. Let's move on to the next question. I'll kind of pivot here. We got the draft coming up, not too far away. I mean, the offseason moves fast. How many days away are we here? Let's take a look at it. Looking at the draft, give us some potential first and second round draft targets. And the draft is 98 days away, so it's a little over 3 months. Give us some first and second round draft targets for the Oakland Raiders. I'm definitely big on Roquan. I'm big on Josh Jackson, potentially Payne in the first. I don't know after what you just said. I don't see Chubb falling to us. I don't see Barkley falling to us. It's possible Roquan doesn't even get to us either. Who are guys that are on your radar in the first round and possibly the second round?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. Obviously, with free agency yet to happen, it's hard to really see specific needs in the Raiders roster, which just makes mock drafts at this point in time very, very difficult to really put any faith in. Even Pro Football Focus, Steve Palazzolo, who I sit with in the office every day, just a great draft mind overall, comes out with his mock draft. But even he knows that free agency is going to change everything. Quarterbacks are going to land places. Mm-hmm. Defensive line, these big names are going to land places to where needs just completely flip the script. But in terms of just overall talent and best player available stuff that should be in that 9 or 10 range, I look at a guy like Vita Vea out of Washington. Everyone wants to draw these Danny Shelton comparisons, which they are valid. But if you look at how much better Vita Vea is as an interior pass rusher, it's just got me licking my chops. He had rated in the top 10 in pass rush productivity per Pro Football Focus. He rated in the top 10 in run stops. He rated in the top 10 in run stop percentage. The dude's a game changer. And if you want a guy to fill Justin Ellis's role, who is most likely going to leave as a free agent, he is a massive, massive upgrade. More so, obviously because he's that big, but also because he's going to be so much significantly better than Justin Ellis, given that Justin Ellis has never really developed to be an interior pass rusher. He's more of a run defender first and run defender only. Vita Vea is a dual threat in that regard. And I think he's a guy in that 9 to 10. Obviously, we don't know which one yet, but that 9 to 10 range, I think, could fit nicely with the Raiders defense.
And I got to say, too, your guys' grades on the draft players, you historically been pretty good at nailing people, especially at the safety position. I saw that you had put that out earlier, and you guys are high on Derwin James. Is that correct?
Yes, very high on Derwin James. I just got done speaking with Florida State's interior defensive lineman, Derek Noddy, and obviously talking to him about his game, but it's hard to not talk to any Florida State defender and not bring up Derwin James and his impact. And Noddy's speaking so highly of him, saying he brings so much energy to the huddle. So he's always asking you to do your job. He's checking if you know what the play is. He's just like an overall leader on that defense. And to hear that kind of anecdotal, qualitative, praise for a guy that's just so statistically and analytically just solid, just wraps it all up into like this package that you just want as soon as possible. You want him on your team. And I think Derwin James is another guy that I don't even know if he falls to that range, but he's a guy that can change a defense, similar to, he draws comparisons to Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas, even Jamal Williams, who's on the Jets now. They have similar qualities. I think Derwin James is a game changer as well, and to have one of those in the secondary, it's pivotal, and it's very key.
Yeah, so Vita Vea, 6'5", 340 pounds. That's a lot of dude coming at you right
it
there.
is a lot of doom.
That's what I've wanted for a while now. We need an interior pass rush to flush quarterbacks out to the outside, so Mac, Irvin, those guys on the outside can feast. Right now they're stepping up. They got too much room to work right up there in the middle. Too many ways to escape our edge pass rush, and if you can get it from all angles, you're going to start to see those sack numbers really rise for the team. Next question. So you mentioned a little bit about free agency and how that's going to affect the draft. And there's a lot of players out there this year. It's a pretty robust free agency class, as I can see right now. Now, a lot of those guys are probably going to be retained. But who are your top 3 rated free agents that are possibly on Oakland's radar at this moment?
My number one, and I've been preaching it for a little bit on Twitter, is Patriots running back Dion Lewis. If he is able to sneak out of Foxborough after what could potentially be a Super Bowl win, I think it's a great get for a Raiders offense that's going to be shifting to the Gruden cable scheme that needs an outside zone runner that is has short area quickness to cut in and cut out, because the outside zone blocking scheme is built on the cutback, something that Marshawn Lynch has lost in his now early 30s. I think bringing a guy like him, yes, everyone's going to say he's too small. We already have a bunch of small backs, but Dion Lewis had a career year this year and has proven that he can not necessarily be a bell cow, but a lead back in a good outside zone with a good offensive line. And I think it's an exciting guy to look at. The only question marks there are obviously his health. He's had some knee injuries. He's had trouble with the injury bug. And as long as he's healthy, he's a star back, in my opinion. And that running back's always going to be a position in free agency where you don't need to spend high dollar amounts on, especially on a guy with injury history. I think that guy's a guy that stands out for me. As for another one, and I'm not really big, similar to Reggie McKenzie's kind of philosophy and spending a lot of money in free agency, if the Raiders were going to make one splash signing, it's Sheldon Richardson coming out of Seattle. I'm not sure if he gets out of there either, just because he had one good year, and I think maybe they want to bring him long term. But I think he's another one who showed that he still has that potential to be a dominant dual threat interior defender, good against the pass, good rushing the passer, good defending the run. And with the Raiders kind of shifting to this 4-3, which under Paul Guenther, which obviously is going to be a hybrid, but maybe some more 4-3 looks, I think they could use a guy like him to play and be versatile as a 4-3 defensive end, play defensive tackle. And he makes a lot of sense to me too, especially if they lose Danico and Justin Ellis as free agents.
Yeah, I can imagine Sheldon and Vita Vea in the interior. That'd be scary.
That would be a very good upgrade.
Yeah. And then Dion Lewis, I like that too, especially his ability to catch the ball, which in a John Gruden system, I mean, if it's at all similar to what he ran, back in 2000, it's going to be an important part of the system. I actually wrote a piece on Jameis Olawale. I expect him to have a big season because of John Gruden, the way he utilizes a fullback. You guys can read that over on RaiderRamble.com. But I'm really high on backs out of the backfield this coming season, catching balls and just kind of being very multiple, which I don't think at this point Lynch fits that role. So I would not be surprised to see him walk. Who's the big free agent that gets out of Oakland this year? Who's the guy that's going to surprise everybody when he leaves?
Current free agent, I'd have to point to TJ Carey, who's already a free agent. I could see him leaving, even though he was the Raiders' highest graded corner this last season, and having him to return in the slot with Garyon Conley and possibly an addition in the draft seems to me like it makes the most sense. But there's a chance that another team offers him a lot of money to play in the nickel somewhere else where they already have two good outside corners, and he jumps at the bit, especially with the transition with Gruden and kind of the whole influx of that. I could see TJ Carey leaving. However, if you want to look at it in terms of just a player that could maybe be released, because there's a bunch of players that have that potential out in their contract this offseason. Sean Smith could have zero dead money cut. David Amerson, Bruce Irvin, you got Marshawn Lynch. Out of those, I don't think David Amerson returns. He last season, even though playing limited snaps, allowed a perfect passer rating and coverage, which is not easy to do, almost hard to do. And you can blame it a little bit on Ken Norton Jr.'s kind of conservative scheme, but that kind of play, and he's only had that really one good year, that one bounce back year. It's just not worth it to me to pay him the upwards of $8 million a year next year that he would get if he does make it onto the 53-man roster. That's the guy that I think they need to move on from. If they want to also move on from Sean Smith, that makes sense too. if they're able to bring back TJ Carey with the money they save.
Got to have one of those two guys in there because we still don't really know what Conley's going to be coming back. And then we don't know what we're going to add in the draft. There's a chance we go corner in the first round if we don't get Vita. There's a lot of possibilities in this draft, a lot of defensive talent in this draft as far as I'm concerned. So let's move on to some of these listener questions. We got a listener from our blog, In One Word Raider. He's got 3 questions for you. You kind of already touched on this a little bit, so I'm going to get out of the way. I'm going to let him ask you the question, and then we'll have your response after that.
What's up, Boston? This is In One Word Raider. I have questions about the Tom Cable hire. I've read statistics that he ran zone blocking 96% of the time in Seattle. Will zone blocking work with our O-line as currently constructed? Guys like David Sharp, Vidal Alexander, Kelechi Osemele, Gabe Jackson, John Feliciano, these are behemoths that have been more successful running power while in Oakland. So will these guys be good in the zone blocking scheme? Do we possibly need smaller, more athletic O-linemen? Is it wise to pay guys like Gabe Jackson and Kelechi Osemele, behemoths, $10 million a year to zone block? Also, who are some of the guys in the draft, running backs, that are well suited for the zone blocking scheme? Thanks.
With the personnel, this Raiders offensive line doesn't fit a zone blocking scheme similar to last season's zone blocking scheme. It's still going to be, have the similar weaknesses if it runs a Todd Downing zone blocking scheme. However, as mentioned before, if they're able to shift things a little bit, run some more pull and pin, get some interior offensive linemen pulling rather than doing stretch blocks, then this outside zone starts to look a lot better. It starts to play to the personnel strengths. When you have good offensive linemen, they can do good things, but not all beefy trench warriors like the Raiders have, and Rodney Hudson, Gabe Jackson, Kelechi Osemele, Donald Penn can perform that stretch reach zone block that is so essential in some of the, especially Todd Downing's scheme. However, with these good offensive linemen, you can find blocks that work for them while remaining an outside zone offense. Looking at the second question, some of the running backs that are coming out that fit this Raiders, especially with this new offense, Saquon Barkley is going to stand out just because he can fit any offense. The guy's just a perennial player, someone who is going to instantly change an offense. It's similar to an Ezekiel Elliott, just an absolute game changer. And other guys I like are Rashad Penny out of San Diego State, my alma mater. He's a guy that I had a lot of opportunities to interview in my time there, only graduating last year. And I think he has the tools to be a feature back, unlike Pumphrey the year before, despite him breaking all the records and things like that. I think Penny is better than Pumphrey. I think Darius Geis brings a lot to the table. I like Kerryon Johnson out of Auburn. I think he's underrated. There's a lot of running back talent, like every draft. We say this every draft. There's a lot of running back talent. But in terms of those guys that could fit the system, Ronald Jones out of USC, Saquon Barkley, and Nick Chubb is another guy that a lot of people like to pin to the Raiders at this point. But I like the guy who's playing with Nick Chubb more than I like Nick Chubb, especially for this Raiders offense. Sony Michael can do things that are just unprecedented. He's able to make people miss and work out of the backfield, that kind of 3-down back that everyone likes. And I think that's a better fit, especially where you're going to be able to get him in this draft. That makes sense to the Raiders, in my opinion.
Where do you see Michaels falling to?
He's a day 2 target for sure. That's a day 2 floor. If he falls to the 3rd, it would be a bad combine that causes that. But this guy's a 2nd-round pick if all things work out well in Indianapolis.
I like him too, and I like Geis, as you mentioned, coming out of LSU, Juice as they like to call him. So let me get out of the way. In One Word has a follow-up question for you. This one's a little bit different. I'll let him ask that.
Austin, this is In One Word Raider. Another question. Nicholas Morrow and Corey James. I thought they played well at times, but they have piss-poor PFF grades. Morrow is a rookie. Are there a lot of examples of rookies having huge leaps in PFF grading after first year, or are we stuck with pretty bad scores for the rest of his career? Thanks.
Looking at Morrow, had a really good year in bursts. He had good coverage numbers and had poor run defense. He had good run defense and had poor coverage numbers, and he got picked on towards the end. And when you started to see an increased snap count, you started to see the flaws kind of come out. He had a couple good games. He strung together a couple consecutive starts that were good, but he's still a very raw player that if he gets held up on the block, he can struggle to shed. He still shows off that Division III safety that he was. He needs to bulk up, get into the film room, get into the weight room, and kind of refine his overall kind of skill set and just frame and things like that before he can be a premier starter or starter level talent. As for James, you're not going to find a guy higher on James than you are going to in me. But this guy is not going to get any better until he starts to get healthy. He had in his first few games at the start of the season, he was in the top 10 in run stop percentage, top 10 in total run stops. Guy was playing well in coverage, and then he hurts his knee. And after that, he obviously returned later in the season. He just wasn't the same guy. If he can stay healthy and potentially fully rebound from that knee injury that was lingering the entire season, even though he was taking snaps, that is where I start to see James as a potential starter, or for down the road, a long-term solution. But again, if you look at this guy, he played edge defender at Colorado State. You're asking this guy to play a new position. He gets his knee injured. That's one of the last guys you want to be unhealthy, because he needs as much experience as he can at a new position to even get better. And then if he can get healthy, get the experience he needs, I can see Corey James being a long-term solution. As for the poor grades for both, it's the inconsistencies that really hurt their game.
Got it. And one thing about James, he's a tough guy. He tried to stay in there as much as he could this season, so kudos for that. As far as Morrow's concerned, here's a guy coming in, flying under the radar. It's my Mel Kiper, flying under the radar. I think when you got a young player like that flashes at times, people like that, and they tend to cling to those flashes. They say, he made a great play right there. And then they don't see a lot of the whiffs that they make, or maybe they don't see all of them, or they don't take everything, the big picture into account and kind of weigh it all out. All they remember is this guy's capable of making big plays. He's a great player. Why is he grading out so poorly, or so on and so forth? But it's, hey, Morrow's a young guy. Like you just said, he's got a lot to learn. It's the inconsistency that's there. He's not making great plays, every 3 downs. And that's a problem.
It's also important to note that there are certain positions in PFF's algorithm that have a harder time receiving a good grade. If linebacker is one of those things where you're asked to do 2 phases of the defense almost equally in terms of coverage and run defense, making them both kind of equally weighted in the algorithm. Similar to a tight end, you need to run block, you need to pass catch, and sometimes you even need to do in pass protection. So there's so many opportunities for you to be negatively graded. While if you look at corner, if you have a poor run defensive play at corner, it's such a rarity that it's not going to completely negatively affect your grade as much as it would a negative play in coverage. So it's those positions, and if you similar like defensive line, your interior defensive line, you're more looking for him to be a good run defender and stop the run. So his grade is kind of weighted on that. When if he doesn't make a good play in coverage when he gets dropped back on the 1 of 5 snaps that he does all season, you're not bringing him down. When you have those positions that do 2 phases of the game so equally, that's where you start to see it's harder to be a good linebacker in terms of our grades. It's harder to be a good tight end, and that's why Navarro Bowman earned a great grade, because he's able to be consistent and prove himself against the run, and obviously kind of struggled in coverage at times, but overall was consistent in terms of statistically and kind of grade wise.
Great insight. Thank you. Podunk Raider, he's got a question for you too, so let's hear what he has to say.
Hey, it's Podunk Raider with the question for Austin Gale. My question is, which Raiders player in 2017 has a lot more talent than his PFF rating might otherwise indicate? And second question is the opposite of that. Which Raider player had a pretty good PFF rating that, if he was a free agent, wouldn't draw any interest, basically the anomaly to that. If you could answer those questions, that'd be great. Thanks. Appreciate you. Bye.
For the first part of that question, you have to cross your fingers that it was Amari Cooper, earning a 51.9 overall grade this year, despite being one of the best route runners in the game. We can stand by that all day. But the drops, for a wide receiver, drops in our algorithm hurt you very badly, because it's one of the most important things you need as a wide receiver is to catch the ball. And when you're ranked in the top 5, in drops and drop percentage, it's not going to do you well in terms of grade. So I think that's a guy that we can expect to see an improved grade when he improves the drops. And if you look at his history, the year before he was drafted at Alabama, struggled with drops pretty significantly. His senior year didn't struggle with drops. Then in his rookie year, struggled with drops. Sophomore year started to bounce back, no drops, and then this year he struggled with drops again. Kind of this off and on thing that makes it kind of hard to quantify and hard to understand the trend line. But if history repeats itself, he's having a bounce back year, and obviously there's no really math behind that besides luck of the draw and a little bit of history books. But I think that's a guy who obviously earned a low grade, but I think he has a higher ceiling than that 51.9 might look at. As for the second part, someone maybe grade higher than what he did on the field, it's Reggie Nelson. 75.3 is obviously a slightly above average grade in PFF system, but safety is another one of those positions where it's kind of hard to earn negative plays just because there's so many as expected. And as expected in our algorithm, as referenced before, is a 0.0 score. So you have that score from -2 to +2. And in the middle, when an as expected play where you're not necessarily negative affecting the play or positively affecting the play is 0. And safety is one of those positions that receives a lot of those because there's so many times where it's an outside zone stretch to the left and it's tackled behind the line of scrimmage. And Reggie Nelson doesn't even have opportunity to react, let alone affect the play. And that's why you'll see grades kind of higher for safeties, even though they played poorly. So in perspective, 75.3 for a safety is almost as bad as a 60 or maybe even a 55 for other positions. So I think some people are always kind of reaching out and saying, how is Reggie Nelson this good? He's, slower than dirt. And always with Reggie Nelson's speed is the classic joke. But you have to look at that 75.3 with a grain of salt, just because the safety position it's just easier to receive a higher grade in the algorithm than it is for other positions.
That makes sense.
I'm so glad he brought up Reggie Nelson. How about you?
I know, right? He was on the tip of our tongues too.
Okay, 2 more questions for you, and then we'll let you get out of here and get back to building your supercomputer, Austin,
to rule the world.
So IR Johnny, another one of our commenters, longtime reader, listener, he wants to know this.
Yo, Kenny, it's Johnny. So this one's for Austin. I was hoping you guys could discuss the Barkley thing. Actually, if you guys could, talk about what it might cost to get up there. And the guy's a game changer. So obviously, if the guy gets there at 9 or 10, be fantastic. But he won't. So what would it cost to get up there? And what's the merits? Because we could get Deron Payne, we could get a lot of defensive help there at 9 and 10. So do you think running back's the way to go, or what do you guys think? Peace.
Looking at PFF's mock draft that dropped earlier today, which I would encourage everyone listening to check out, Steve has Barkley dropping to 10, which obviously at this point in the game is hard to predict. You don't know where free agents are going to fall, and you don't know how Barkley's going to do at the combine, even though the dude squats like 600 plus pounds. I don't know how if he doesn't show up, that'd be the only way he doesn't do well at the combine. I think he's going to break the combine. But I think let's say Saquon, if we did want to, being devil's advocate, say we wanted to say Saquon Barkley doesn't fall past 5. I don't think trading up in this situation is worth it, just because there are more holes on this Raiders roster than people want to believe. And trading up is definitely against Reggie McKenzie's philosophy. And if I was a GM, it's against my philosophy, just because when you got a team that's not one piece away, let alone one running back away, a position that you can find serviceable solutions to in so many other areas, whether it be free agency, undrafted free agency. If you look at Jalen Richard, even though obviously he had a little bit of fumbles last year, and then you also later rounds in the draft where you can find a serviceable solution, unlike you can with an interior defensive lineman, a corner, or there's some of those positions that once you start to leave day 2 and dip into day 3, you're not going to find a guy that can really start day 1. And I think that makes the most sense to me. Trading up for Barkley, though it would be the sexy pick, I don't think it's the right one, especially for this Raiders team.
I agree. It would be a lot of fun. It'd be exciting, and they'd be like, "Wait, we still have to fix the defense."
Wait, we don't have any interior defensive linemen.
Right? Exactly.
We're re-signing Reggie Nelson. What? Last question. I think this is a good question. This guy always calls in great questions every week. We apologize for not getting his question on there last week, but JFB wants to know this.
Hello, buenos dias. It's your buddy, Just Fire Baby, out here having a question for our Pro Football Focus analyst that is coming on to discuss all things Raiders and PFF. Excited to hear this segment. And my question is more of a question and a comment, I guess, in regards to Carl Joseph. Now, some of the really cool stats that Pro Football Focus puts out that I'm a huge fan of is they break down these individual stats, third down passer rating allowed in coverage on this play, and missed tackle percentages and all that fun stuff. And when you looked at Carl Joseph, strong safety for the future Las Vegas Raiders, you saw that he did not grade very well in any of those. In fact, it was pretty poor, and I thought that was pretty much shown on the field. You saw a guy missing way too many tackles and getting burnt way too often in coverage. However, on the year, Carl Joseph's Pro Football Focus score was actually pretty high, above average. So I was kind of trying to see if you could maybe pair the two bits of data there to how he can rank so poorly on some individual metrics, but then do pretty well on the whole grand scheme of things. So maybe we can extrapolate a little bit on that. It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
This is a great question, and with Carl Joseph, it's interesting. He's such a good run defender, and despite his size, he's able to play near the line of scrimmage, within 8 yards of the line of scrimmage, and take on some blocks and identify runs and make plays towards the line of scrimmage. And some plays that are kind of hard to see with the eye test, just because he's in crowds and pushing through traffic, keeping running backs from moving up another 2 yards to flattening them and pushing them back. And his run defense is so good that kind of keeps his grade going. But something that the Raiders defensive coordinator, maybe a combination of the Raiders coaching personnel, kind of failed at is putting him in man coverage against some of these bigger tight ends and some of these bigger slot receivers that he just hasn't been able to keep pace with in his career. It being so small, at a certain point, there's certain things where it will always negatively affect you. Going against Travis Kelce, Rob Gronkowski, Delaney Walker, some of these guys, it's not going to bode well for a guy who's barely scratching the surface at 5'9", 5'10". If they're able to switch his role a little bit, put him in that maybe like a Mark Barron, Deion Buchanan role where he's playing a lot towards the line of scrimmage, and when he is in coverage, he's playing shallow zones rather than deep zones. That's where you start to see Carl Joseph's usage affect his grade positively. There's so much when you look at this last season, which is obviously a disappointment, where you see personnel being misused, and it's an underrated coaching measure. Everyone wants to say coaching is play calling, game planning. Game planning kind of involves personnel usage, but play calling and pretty much what you're calling on fourth down and stuff. But so much of it is identifying the strengths and weaknesses within your own personnel and using them to your advantage. Every roster has weaknesses, but Bill Belichick is so good at hiding them and so good at emphasizing and pushing up his strengths. And that's something that the Raiders coaching staff last year really lacked. And that's why you see Carl Joseph in man coverage against Travis Kelce. You see Cordero Patterson running a hitch on 3rd and 8. Those kind of things just started to stack up, and that's why you saw the offensive miscues, defensive miscues, etc.
Great answer. I'm a big Carl Joseph fan. I don't know, how do you feel about this, but do you think he moves over to free safety next year?
That would make the most sense. I mean, if Obi Melifonwu can come in and play that down, he's big enough. If he adds a little bit more weight this offseason, he can be thick enough to play a strong safety role and step in. And you got Carl Joseph moved to free safety. I like the idea, but it's hard to really speculate with that without knowing what his take is on it. And a lot of the time, without interviewing him and understanding what his if he's a guy that's like, I'll play anywhere they need me, or if he's like, I like to play here and I like to play there, he knows his own strengths and weaknesses. It's hard to really speculate where you want a guy to play. But in terms of his skill set and what he brings to the table in terms of film and his grades and stuff, I think free safety could be a solid switch for him. That given only if Obi Melifonwu, who I'm really high on, had an opportunity to interview him a couple times last season. I think if he can step up to the plate and really play that strong safety role, because if that crumbles, you're going to need to move Carl Joseph back over there, because you can't have the strong safety position where Carl Joseph was such a strong effect on the run game, and Obi Melifonwu can't have a similar effect, especially with the poor linebacker play. If Navarro Bowman doesn't come back, you're going to start to see factors, dominoes fall in a negative way.
So actually, one more question. My partner Che here has a question for you, and I'll get out of the way and let him ask the question.
Yeah. Question that I had. Obviously, you've covered greatly. I must say, the fact that we have various needs, right? we have a big amount of needs on the team, even though some people don't want to admit it. 3 needs that I think pop into my head the most would be the corner, obviously, the inside linebacker, although I really like Navarro Bowman as well, and I hope that we retain him, and then also the offensive tackle position, because I don't think we have the answer at the right tackle, and I think Penn is on his last legs as well. So addressing those 3. My question to you is, which of those do you think is best addressed in the draft and best addressed in free agency?
Great question. Well thought out. I think looking at this cornerback class, especially if they do want to part ways with a number of the veterans that have either buyouts or are free agents, I kind of like the idea of going into free agency and possibly getting a corner like Rashawn Melvin. I know Kendall I'm mixing up Kendall and Kyle, but one of the Fuller brothers is a free agent who had an outstanding year. I'm blanking on which one it is. I think it's Kendall. But moving on from that, I think they're getting a veteran in there that with a lot of talent makes sense to me, especially if the Raiders aren't willing to spend high draft capital on a corner. While when you look back at this inside linebacker, you don't see that talent in free agency. You don't really see an answer other than Navarro Bowman, which in this case we would retain him. But that other linebacker, that's where I want the Raiders to possibly you look at Roquan Smith coming out of Georgia, you got Rashaan Evans in Alabama. Those 2 guys stand out as you're not getting that in free agency, and bringing in a young guy that could obviously be the heir apparent to Bowman if he does return, or even just step in and be a leader on this defense. Is paramount for the run defense to get better and the coverage against tight ends and running backs to get better. That's where I kind of see each of those being fit.
Awesome.
Man, it's been an epic interview, Austin. Thank you so much for coming in and dropping all that knowledge. Again, make sure you follow this guy on Twitter. Do you want to drop your Twitter one more time for him, Gail?
Absolutely. So, follow me at AustinGale_PFF and see all of our work at ProFootballFocus.com. It's worth the visit and then some. It's definitely a lot of good work there. A lot of good analysts put their a lot of time and effort into what we put out, and we're always willing to accept feedback too. And on Twitter, we receive our fair share of criticism. We welcome it and learn from it, and hopefully, as we move forward, get better from it.
Well, you're a great mind, Austin. Hopefully we can have you back on sometime here in the near future. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and thanks again for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Wow, we're going to go to break, and I'm going to start picking up the pieces of brain around the studio because my mind is blown.
Mine's blown.
I mean, that guy is a
big effing deal.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
You still had that one in the chamber, huh? You
still
had that one in the chamber.
That's locked in, bro.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, that was good stuff, man. Real good stuff.
Yeah.
I hope you guys feel smarter.
I do.
Yeah, I feel smarter.
I'm a little overwhelmed. I feel like there's a test tomorrow. I'm a little nervous.
Let's see. What did he say again?
Sorry,
we got some time, guys. We got some time. Don't worry.
We got
the
time.
off season's gonna go by
98
a little
days.
slower than we wanted to.
I know it's gonna drag on. Well, I mean, at least we got a lot of stuff to look forward to now. We do. We got the new head coach. You got a whole new staff. You got a robust draft coming. I kind of feel like this is a can't miss draft. I know I'm gonna eat those words.
Don't we always?
I just said that, didn't I? This is a can't miss draft. Teams can't go wrong in this draft.
Man!
But I feel good about it.
I feel good about it too, man. And hopefully, things go kind of the way that Gail said. That we address those needs that we need in those early rounds, and don't take too much of a chance. As trying to trade up or whatever it may be. Stick to what we need, man. We need defense. We need to figure out those big play stopping positions, right?
Yeah.
Cornerback, linebacker, and then the offensive tackles. We need to protect Carr. Right?
Yeah, that's it. That's the theme. All right, so we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna hit the break. We're gonna listen to the rest of your calls, and when we come back on the other side, we're gonna respond to your calls, and then of course we'll have Kane's Corner, sponsored by NFLShop.com, and then a couple more segments for you guys before we get on out of here.
Hey,
you good?
I'm good.
We out.
Peace.
Sound roll Damn it. Ungoddamn believable. I post a comment and it says your comment is awaiting moderation. Thanks, Quark. I paid you $39 goddamn dollars for this. And I get the same treatment I got on InBuzz? Screw you! Go Raiders!
What's going on, Kenny? This is Gent. What's going on, fellow pillagers? Hey, man, I don't mean to sound kind of downtrodden right now. I'm just a little disappointed with this Tom Cable hire as O-line coach. I'm just tired of the zone blocking scheme with the personnel that we have for the run game, bro. And that's all Tom coaches is what's been reported. That's all he's about. So, just a little bit frustrated with that. Maybe they have plans on changing the personnel, and that's what they want to use in the future, but it seems like you got two big, strong, giant guards. You should just be pushing over people and running Lynch behind them. Don't make no sense to having people running around doing stunts. Stupid shit, man. I don't know. They're paid to know more about football than me. I'm not gonna lie and act like I'm some football genius, but sometimes it doesn't take genius. It just takes common sense. So, we'll see. I love the Raiders. I love y'all. And I'm promised to call a little more often. I'm out here.
And we're back. Frisky, that was Frisky's coming in hot. Coming real hot, slamming Raider Snake Pit. Hey, that's a good site if you got the money to pay for it. Cork's a good dude. Bill Williamson's a good writer. But I understand he's heated. I don't like pre-moderated comments. And I write for a site that's got pre-moderated comments. And I understand it. I'm not bashing that site. I'm not bashing Snake Pit either. But, pillagingJustForFun.com. We don't pre-moderate. There's no filters. We're self-moderated. You don't like a comment, you flag the comment. I see it. I make a judgment call. If 3 or more people flag the comment, it automatically deletes. And that's the way I got it set up. I haven't set up filters yet. After a certain time of night, we kind of just let it go. And, if you go over to Reddit, reddit.com/Raiders, it gets wild in there at 7 o'clock in the morning. So I'm kind of in the middle. And we try to keep it civil for most hours, and y'all do a good job. But Frisky's definitely stirs the pot, and he's a wild card, and that's what we like about him. And he calls people out, and he called you guys out. So maybe you should let Frisky's in there. Maybe you should open the floodgates. Maybe you'll get a little bit more subscribers. Maybe we'll share some of our people with you.
There you go.
There you go. We got a very loyal community. I love you guys. Man, you guys are awesome.
Yeah, man.
Pillagers are crazy. I love it. And the meetups at the games are fantastic, man. If you ever chatted with people online or whatever, Raider fans online, you never met them, and maybe you were curious, or maybe you don't care. I don't know. But we get down, man. We actually do it. And we travel. We travel. Canes all over the place. I traveled a couple places next year. We got a big exodus next year to Denver. We're all headed out there, and we make it happen.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
We make it happen. You've seen it.
I've seen it, man, firsthand. It's a wonderful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing. And then the other caller there, we had Gent. Gent, man, I feel your pain. I understand where you're coming from. And to be fair, I talked to Gent on the phone after he left this message, and I hadn't heard the message yet, but he called me and he was like, hey, this is kind of what I said. And, I don't know. Maybe I don't want that take, but that's kind of how I feel right now. And I talked to him a little bit. I'd read a piece on fieldgoals.com. It's a Seattle Seahawks paper, and they were breaking down Tom's kind of more unique zone blocking system. Yeah. And then you hear Austin break it down in detail for you right now. So have hope, Gent. There's more to it than Todd Downing. Don't base one zone blocking scheme.
Right. Not every zone blocking scheme wasn't created equal.
No.
Let's just say that.
And neither was every offensive coordinator.
This is true.
Todd Downing. But Jet, you're a smart Raider fan, and you are borderline genius, so don't sell yourself short. You are also full of common sense. And I know when you see it, you're going to come around and you're going to get how it works. If it works, hopefully it works. You're my brother. Much love. So without further ado, we got Kane's Corner coming up.
Yeah.
Should we get this guy on the phone?
Let's get him on, man. Let's get him on.
Let's do it. All right, here we go. We got Raider Kane brought to you by NFLShop.com. Make sure you click on PJ4F.com and click on the banner. Anything you purchase there through our site, we get a little bit of that to keep our pirate ship afloat. We are currently amassing computer parts to build our PFF competitive computer, supercomputer, and we're going to take out all the other analytics sites in a short time. So, Kane, welcome to the show, man. It's good to have you back on this week. How you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. I'm doing good, man. How you guys doing this week?
I'm good, man. Doing real good.
Feeling pretty good. A little bit of rain down this way, which I like. I'm a big fan of the rain. And, just living life, bro. Enjoying this offseason so far. Seems like every week we got another big piece of news. This week, the big news is the Tom Cable hire, the return of Tom Cable to the Oakland Raiders. We talked a very small bit about it at the beginning of the show. Austin Gale broke down how his zone blocking scheme differs from Todd Downing and how we shouldn't get too sad based on a rookie offensive coordinator's implementation of the zone blocking scheme.
Right. It was real rudimentary, man.
Very rudimentary, very elementary. Well, overall, Tom Cable, zone blocking scheme aside, Tom Cable, the man, the personality, his history as an Oakland Raiders coach before. What's your feeling? What was your reaction to the Cable hiring initially, and did it stick with you, or where are you at right now with this hiring?
I'm okay with the hiring. He's probably one of the top 5, if not the top 3 offensive line coaches in the league. So I'm okay with the hire. And my initial reaction, I want to say, wow, Mark is really letting John do his thing, because I don't think the organization would have welcomed this guy back after the way he left.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, yeah, it's a good hire. It's a good hire for the team. It'll be good for the running game, and it'll be it'll just be overall a good thing for John, because I'm the way I'm looking at it is maybe Cable coordinates the running game sort of like Bill Callahan did back when him and John were coaching back in the day, and that allows John to focus on the passing game more and not have to worry about designing plays for the run game. That'll be on Cable. That's what I'm thinking, but we'll see.
Right. No, I think that's a good pool. I think that's something a lot of people don't know, is that Callahan was calling all the run plays while he was here in Oakland. So I think it's a really good point that I haven't heard made yet. So I like that take. I like Tom Cable's personality. He's a football dude. I think he's like 6'7".
He's a big dude.
He's a big dude.
He's a big dude. That's why somebody got to eye jam you.
And speaking of that, I mean, you're right. I think this is definitely a John Gruden move with the zero tolerance policy that the Oakland Raiders preach. It was surprising to see him brought back. I want to reiterate that those allegations never stuck. They never came to fruition in court. The charges were dropped. We don't know what happened behind the scenes to make all that happen. There might have been money changing hands. It could have settled out of court is what I'm saying. But it is what it is, and Tom Cable's back in Oakland now. And I like the way he got our players to fight for us. You mentioned that in the first segment, Che. And so here we go. I mean, it's kind of a stretch to say that he's a head coach candidate, but you got a guy now who's coming out of Seattle. Now you're offensive lineman. I do agree with Kane. He's a top 3 offensive line coach in the NFL, maybe even higher than that. Heck, I'll push it up even a few more slots. He might be the top offensive line coach, and that's controversial to say. But it's maybe a stretch, but not completely unrealistic that this guy could be considered for a head coach job somewhere where they're really hurting for a head coach.
Right.
So that's a good get. That's a good pull to have him on his staff. And you don't get that kind of pull without a John Gruden or a big splashy head coach name like that.
Yeah.
So it just kind of shows the kind of juice this organization has once again, right? So
Exactly.
free agency and the draft, they're quickly approaching this offseason. The NFL machine always keeps churning. It doesn't slow down. So give me a free agent target. Give me your one top free agent target that the Oakland Raiders are going to sign this offseason. Who is that guy?
I would like to see him sign Jarvis Landry. If we're not going to keep Michael Crabtree, I would like to see, even if we did keep Michael Crabtree, I would like to see Jarvis Landry added into the mix. That would allow Cooper to play more in the slot, and you can put Landry and Crabtree as wideouts, and that would solidify our receiving core, definitely in my opinion.
I like the Landry pick right there. A top 5 pass catcher in the NFL this last season. Is he a bit of a personality challenge? Yes, but we have, again, the X factor in John Gruden, who seems to be pretty good at tampering those things down. So I like Landry. I think he's a big play wide receiver. I would love to see him in this offense. That would really make defenses sweat. Who's your guy, Che? Who would you pull out?
I don't know, man. It's a tough call right now. Landry's a good pick just because we have issues at the wide receiver position, man. We didn't perform this season, and I don't think Seth Roberts needs to be out there as much anymore. But there's a couple corners out there that may catch our eyes, but we discussed this with Gail in the first segment that might be better addressed. It could be better addressed in the draft. But Tremaine Johnson from the Rams is out there. And then also Malcolm Butler. Malcolm Butler's out there. So, I mean, if you can get them for the right price, obviously, I wouldn't want to pay them big bucks to come on over. But just because we have those needs, man, we have needs at the corner position. We don't know what Conley's going to look like. If we do draft somebody, we're going to have basically 2 rookies.
You guys probably didn't hear this, but I'm over here on a webpage, and you got these autoplay videos. I mean, that thing was loud.
Yeah, damn those autoplay videos, man. I hate those things. But yeah, no, we obviously have those needs, man, and if we do draft a corner in this year's draft, then we're really looking at the possibility of having 2 rookie cornerbacks starting. And we don't really know what that's going to look like. So the possibility of bringing in a veteran, somebody that's played solid in the last few years, especially, it could be the best way to go.
So Jermaine Johnson or Malcolm Butler.
Yeah,
those are good names, and we're going to pay for those. But the salary cap's going up again once again this year. I know we got to re-sign Mac, but there should be a little bit of room there, especially if we let some of these guys walk. Cut players and let some of these guys walk. There's going to be holes on the roster, and that means there's going to be some room under the cap. Reggie's a wizard with this. There's not going to be a whole lot of cap penalty hanging out, which give us some room to wheel and deal. My guy is defensive lineman with the potential release or walking of Danico Autry and or Justin Ellis or both of them. Let's say we don't draft Vita Vea, as Austin Gale was saying. This isn't a guy that lived up to his potential, but I still think he's a guy we can plug in and he's going to make a difference, and that's Star Lotulelei. This is a guy that a lot of Raider fans wanted us to draft when he came out, and it looks like he could be leaving Carolina this offseason. He hasn't quite lived up to the run stuffer pedigree that they put on him, or label that they put on him, but he's a big dude. And I think that he can work well in the system. I think Paul Gunther would love to have a piece like Star on his squad.
Right.
So those are our 3 guys. Hey, if we sign all 3 of those guys, we get a Malcolm Butler, a Jarvis Landry, and a Star Lotulelei. That's a dynamite free agency haul.
That is.
Now, we probably not going to
Hopefully we don't break the bank.
Yeah. Reality is we're not going to get all 3 of those guys, but I want to be mad at any one of those 3. So good job, guys. I like those.
Yeah.
Good work. Kane, one guy that the Raiders should let walk this offseason is
Reggie Nelson. Bye, Reggie.
Hallelujah.
Goodbye, good riddance. Please don't even come back. Go visit other teams and stay on your visit. Don't even come back out here, man.
Just go visit your grandma, Reggie.
I mean, he was absolutely worthless to this team. I think he was brought here because he played for Jack Del Rio in Jacksonville. He drafted him, and so it was some ties there. But other than that, he was absolutely worthless.
Yeah.
Worse than Sean Smith. I think that was Sean Smith's problem.
Yeah. We said that last season. We said that last season too.
Yeah. So I mean, bye-bye, Reggie.
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad to see Reggie Nelson walk. I mean, you already know how this podcast feels about Reggie Nelson. And what's interesting, Kane, because you brought it up, the Jacksonville ties is dating all the way back to Jacksonville. He's got similar critiques on him as Jack Del Rio, that he wasn't putting in all of the work. He wasn't doing his film study. In fact, there's reports that he would fall asleep in film sessions and just, more of a kind of a 9-to-5 type guy like Jack Del Rio was. And I don't want to bash Jack. I think he did a good job getting this team turned around, at least for 1 year.
Yeah.
And then he lost his mojo, as he likes to say. I think he got that big deal and he put his feet up. But, for a year there, we're really big on Jack. We were never big on Reggie Nelson.
No.
So I agree with you 100%, Kane. So now that Reggie Nelson's out of the way, it gets a little bit harder for you, Che. Who are you going to let walk this offseason?
Oh, man. Well, listen, man. So last season, in the off season, we were talking about who might go, and I was talking about Johnny Holton leaving,
right?
Because I thought that we should keep Jaden Mickens.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
Remember that?
You were
Remember
right
I was
about
all
that.
over Jaden Mickens, and I was like, "Yo, I really like this kid. This kid looks good. I think he could give us, crossing, that slot receiver that runs those crossing routes." I was all over that guy. Obviously, he left and Holton stayed. I'm still not on the Holton wagon. I think we can let him go, especially if we're looking to bring in another receiver. If you're looking to bring in Jarvis Landry, then that makes more sense. That makes sense to drop him, either him or Seth Roberts. But Seth Roberts just got to, we just gave him a contract, so I don't think that's the route that they're gonna go. They're probably gonna, if they're gonna cut one of them, it would probably be Holton.
Right.
Yeah.
A guy that I think we let walk. I hate to see TJ Carey go, so I'm not going to say that. I could go the easy way out and say Aldon Smith, who's a free agent this year, just because he's not playing. I would love to see Aldon come back and get another chance. I'm all for it. I think the guy struggles with some mental health issues, and I don't want to say it's not his fault. We got to be responsible for everything you do, but man, I just want to see Aldon Smith play a full season for the Silver and Black. So who am I going to let go? I think it's going to be Justin Ellis, with the potential of citing somebody like Vita Vea in the draft, other defensive tackle in the draft. There's talent there up and down. And then, of course, Starr in free agency and a couple other guys that are out there. I think we're going to let Justin Ellis walk this season. If I had to pick between Ellis and Autry, who plays a defensive end but slides inside sometimes too on passing downs, I'd rather keep Autry on that line.
Yeah.
That's a guy that's just, towards the last half of the season, you just heard his name a whole lot.
Well, he's trending upward, man. I think that we both agreed on that, right? Towards the end, he's really started to flash, and he was really making plays out there for us. So why not? Why wouldn't you want to keep that guy?
So retain Autry, let Ellis walk, try to coach up Vanderdoes, who had a quiet season, and see how he does in a different, different scheme.
And had surgery.
And had surgery. That's right. We didn't know that to begin with. And that comes out. So coach up Vanderdoes, maybe land a free agent or draft, draft Vea in the first round if you're high on that guy, and let Ellis walk. So I think Jelly's a goner this offseason. That's my opinion. And with all three names that you guys threw out there, I think, the good thing is we can live without these three players. I think we survive without them.
Yeah.
Other names on the free agency list, some of you guys listening probably already know. Aldon Smith, once again, Sebastian Janikowski, Navarro Bowman, Lee Smith, John Kondo, E.J. Manuel, Keith McGill, and again, T.J. Carey. So those are some of the names that are on the list out there. We'll see what happens.
Man, I'm surprised that you didn't throw your boy out there, man.
Who's that?
Tavecchio, man.
Oh, Giorgio Tavecchio, bro.
I'm surprised you didn't kick him out, man. You wanted to kick him out.
It's time for the Keith McGill experiment to end too.
Oh,
I think that's the ran its course.
Yeah.
So if you didn't want to, I like TJ Carey too. Just kind of piggybacking on what you said, but I think my problem with keeping TJ Carey is TJ Carey is gonna get $5 or $6 million a year. He's not worth that to the Raiders.
No.
Not to us. Not here. Maybe to another team that's looking, maybe the Jets or somebody like that that's looking for a number 2 corner,
Yeah.
or starter. But he's not going to start here. So that money he's going to be commanding, that's too much. We can spend that money elsewhere. And then as far as my take on you, Jelly, I don't, it was rumored at the end of the season when this all came to a halt that Jack and Reggie had some issues with Jack wasn't really developing Reggie's players. I don't know whether it was because he didn't have anything to do with drafting them, whatever the case may be, but it was rumored that Jack and his staff just were not developing, he had a problem with the front office, just, to say as much. And so with that being said, and I hate saying that, making that statement, but with that being said, these young defensive, you guys are overlooking talent that we already have on the roster.
Right.
With better coaching, I believe Vanderdoes, Ward, Jelly, Autry, Trayvon Hester, we have defensive tackles. I don't know why y'all keep saying let's draft a defensive tackle.
True.
We got a bunch of them. We don't need it. That's not gonna happen. They're not gonna draft a defensive tackle in the first. If they do, I'll faint. Yeah. We need a running back. We need cornerbacks. And Che, to elaborate on what you said, we would have 2 rookie cornerbacks, but the 2 rookie cornerbacks, well, if we draft Denzel Ward at number 10, that's the guy I like, best cover corner in college football, in my opinion. If we draft him, we'll put him with Conley. That can, in 2 years, that could be possibly the best defensive backfield, better than Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Better than Jacksonville.
Yeah.
They'll be. I'm not expecting much out of this team in 2018. So let's go ahead and draft a young DB. Let's keep the defense young. I don't want to play scientist and go out and try to draft another defensive tackle that we really don't need. I want to see the guys on the roster get developed, and that all is going to happen with the new coaching staff.
And
so, my whole thing is I want to see either say Saquon Barkley in the first round, either trade up and try to get him, because we'll be in the mix for him, or stay pat at 10 after we lose the flip toss, stay pat at 10 and draft Ward. Draft Ward, man. That's my opinion.
I'm also on the cornerback train for the draft. That's actually my opinion. Austin Gale goes Vita Vea. The guy is dominant. He's a big dude, but like you said, we got a big stable of defensive tackle. It's one of our deepest positions on the roster. How much talent and how deep it is, we don't know yet, because I don't think they've been given a fair shot. We've had basically 2 different defensive schemes in 1 year. We had K&J for a year and a half, a little bit more so, and then you had like this sort of abbreviated Pagano system that he had to implement on short notice, which was like see ball, get ball, not really complicated there, and that's not playing to anybody's strengths really. It's just sort of, let's just simplify it for you right now because we're in the middle of it. So I think we stand pat with the defensive line. Personally, Ward's your guy. I like Ward too. The guy that I really liked, though, was Joshua Jackson out of Iowa. He's got the size. He's 6'1", 195, flying under the radar. Be hard pressed to tell me otherwise. I think Todd. I like Joshua Jackson. You got Minka Fitzpatrick out there who is bigger, taller than both of those guys. But I don't think he has the awareness and the smarts. They said he could be coached up. Chase said off the air he's got a great work ethic. But I need a guy that you can plug and play and that's going to play right now. I don't want another project in the first round. I don't want a combine freak. I want a proven cover corner. And when you get young at corner, plug those guys in, and you're good for the long haul. And I think if we have 2 good cover corners, it just makes that defensive pass rush a lot better, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're buying your pass rushers a lot more time, and you don't got wide receivers and tight ends running wide open all over the field. So that's where I'm at. And this isn't our draft podcast. We are going to get into this more, listeners. We're going to break this down more as we get closer to the draft. We'll kind of go round by round, week by week sort of thing. But just consider this a little aperitif, if you will.
There you go.
Yeah.
Little appetizer.
But man, if
give you a little taste, a little something.
And depending on what mock draft you've looked at, You know, I've seen one now. I've only seen one, but it's the PFF mock draft where they actually have Barkley falling to us. And if that does happen, that's going to be a tough pick right there because there is going to be defensive talent available, and you're going to have, you know, another proven stud coming out.
You can have a stud.
You know, you saw Leonard Fournette coming 2 years away, and he hit the NFL and just kept running. And so, you know, you're hearing the same thing about Barkley. I was hearing about him last year. You know, a lot of buzz, a lot of juice around him this year. Be hard pressed not to take him if he's there. So that's going to be a tough call if he falls to us. We'll see if it happens. Wait and see on that. And again, more draft talk in the episodes to come. But anything else going on out there, Raider Kane? How you feeling this evening?
Oh, man, I'm just trying to wrap it up here at work tonight, man. That's about it, bro. You know, I'm back on the dating scene, so I out here. Matter of fact, I met a little lady down there in Los Gatos.
Ooh, watch
that
out!
I've been seeing. So yeah, I'm just out here, man. I'm just chilling. I went to Vancouver this past weekend, man. Was out there chilling. It was cold as hell, freezing. You know, we California boys, we get out in some snow, man, and we be ready to run and duck and hide somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, man. So. Yeah, I just been chilling, man. I ain't been doing much. What's up with y'all, man? How y'all been? How y'all New Year been, man?
So far, so good, man. 2018's good. Woke up this morning and found out my last article hit Bleacher Report.
Yeah, man.
So a little pat on my back.
Oh,
but
wow,
that's
man.
big. That's big time.
Applause, my brother. Applause.
Yeah, we out there now. Yeah. And I got to give a shout out to the RaiderRamble.com for putting me on that. They're in the Bleacher Report circulation. Not everything that posts there goes there, but mine went there, so I'm happy about that. Just a little year in review piece for Amari Cooper. It was, to be honest, it was low hanging fruit, but I did it. You know, I did it. I sat there for a couple hours and chewed on the numbers and looked back at all the plays that were and that weren't, and relived the life of Amari Cooper in 2017, and it was rough.
My God, Amari Cooper's been rough, bro, rough. Actually, since week 13 of last season, he's disappeared basically.
Yeah.
He came out of hiding for about 2-3 weeks this year.
Yep.
And then went back into hibernation.
Yeah. What was that? That was after the Steelers game, correct? Mike Mitchell put that on him last year. Am I right?
No, that was the year before. That was the year before.
That was his rookie year. That's right.
Last year.
That's right.
Week 13 last year was either the Buffalo game or the Colts.
Okay.
After one of those games, he disappeared. He was nowhere to be found.
Yeah,
and then in the playoff, he didn't show up in Tampa Bay. He didn't show up in the playoffs. He didn't show up in the Denver game, the last Denver game. Yeah, he's been struggling, man. I don't even want to get started on Amari Cooper because you know how I feel. I'm a little too harsh on him right now, and I need to just kind of calm my nerves. I'll get going, and you're not going to like what I'm going to have to say. So
yeah, hey man, I had to write that article, man. I was face first in that, so I know exactly how you feel. You're right. It was the Buffalo Bills game. The Colts game was week 16. That's when Carr went down. But you're right. That was the Bills game. Good news is we won that game 38-24. So Amari Cooper, man, we're still looking at you. We think you can bounce back, but we'll talk about that. We're going to start ripping into players here eventually, probably as we get into camp and we predict what's going to happen. I can't wait to hear your prediction this year, Che. Can't wait to hear your prediction.
I'm gonna bounce back too, man.
What did he say this year?
I'm gonna bounce back too, all right?
What did you say?
Yeah, he said.
What did he say? 13-3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took a bold stand, man, because the year before I took a bold stand and it worked out. So I was like, hey, let's try it again. Let's go 2 for 2, and that didn't work out so well. So right now I'm batting 50.
Hey, is that Kool-Aid mustache fading yet?
The mustache is gone, bro.
Boy.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Well, I know one thing. Somebody said something on the blog today, and I agree 100%. Raider fans are tired of being tired. So my prediction this year is not going to be some over the top, outdrawn. You know, I'm on the keep it real boat right now.
Mm-hmm.
Until I see I need to see 8 weeks of football first. 8 full weeks of football, not 1, not 2, because you see what happened after 2 weeks after this season.
Yeah,
right.
So I mean, 1-2 weeks ain't gonna do it for me. I need to see 8 weeks of football then I might jump on the John Gruden train. We'll see how they playing after 8 weeks. Right now, it's just I'm wait and see. This team has really pissed me off this last year.
Hey, I respect that. I respect your position right now. And like I said, I'm kind of with you right now too. I'm in wait and see mode. Am I excited? Yeah, it's exciting, but I'm still wait and see mode. I'm not going to get my hopes up. I'm not going to set my expectations too high. I know some folks are probably triggered by your comments on last week, but like you said, you're in the keep it real mode right now. That's exactly what it is. It's not that Kane is coming down on this team or he thinks low of this team. It's just like, hey, we're going to set the bar right here until further notice.
Right.
We are who we are until further notice.
Yeah, we hate getting smacked in the mouth, all right?
Yeah.
It sucks.
It sucks. Yeah, ask Randy Hansen about that. Oh, my bad. Don't come at me, Mrs. Cable. Try to delete my show. Well,
Carry ball, Bombardier, carry ball,
Oh, you're crazy. Well, cool, man. It's good to talk to you. It's getting late. It's like 10 o'clock over here, Pacific Standard Time. So we're gonna get up out of here unless you got anything else for us, bro.
Oh, that's it, man. It's always good. It's always a pleasure. And I'll talk with you fellas next week.
All right, brother.
All right, brother.
Peace.
All right. Peace.
Tremendous call by Kane.
Yeah.
Feeling the love. Let's move right along.
Let's do it.
Let's move right along because it is late, and I know you got to get home to the babies.
Yes, I do.
This segment is called "I See You."
I see you.
Yeah. So this post was by Lowdown in Beijing, and he says there are two things I pray Gruden has learned from. Number one, Marcus Tuiasosopo. Number two, Doug Jolly. And that's where it is. And he says, University of Washington QBs suck massive shore league dingus. See Rick Meyer, for example. And he was out.
I like it. I like it.
And that dude is in China right now. He is in Beijing. That's his name, Lowdown in Beijing. He's for a fact in Beijing. So thoughts from across the globe.
It's good, man. We need them from all over the place. We need all the thoughts.
I got no reaction to that. I'm just gonna
just let it stand, man.
Just let it breathe.
This is a good take, man.
I hope he's learned too, man. I don't know what Gruden saw in Marcus Tuiasosopo. It was fun saying Tui, yeah, Tui.
Hey, there was. I mean, I remember when we drafted Tuiasosopo, and I remember some other dudes when I was at my junior college. They were other fans. I think one of them was a Dolphins fan. And he was like, "Hey, man, you guys got Tui, man." He was talking about Tuiasosopo. I was like, all right, man. I guess we finally did something right. No. We got a career long backup. That's what we got.
Yeah, you know about the pick though. I will say that I said I was gonna let it breathe, but we're talking about it. So what I gotta say is, looking at him coming out of college and kind of like the skill set he had, John was a little bit ahead of his time with that. Now he didn't hit. It didn't stick, but I saw what he was going for. The mobile quarterback that can manage the system that he was running. He's a little bit ahead of his time right there. He saw the trend coming, right?
Maybe Tui was just not mature yet. He just didn't get enough time to mature, man.
No. Yeah. And then he ended up with I don't know, similar guy in my opinion with more talent, hometown hero Jeff Garcia later on in Tampa Bay.
That's right.
You know? So, anyways,
but he didn't escape the wrath either, man.
He did not. He did not.
You can go find those sound clips, man.
Jeff Garcia did not escape the wrath of some of my good friends at a house party here either. But that's a story for offline.
Or is it?
Some of you guys have heard it. Che, you're about to hear it in about 10 minutes. So shout out to Austin Gale. We want to thank you for coming on the show tonight. A big thank you. Shout out to By Any Means Pod and the Out of Pocket Podcasting Network, who we are now proudly a member of. Andrea and Phil Robinson, the third over there. I need to add like a number to my name too.
It just makes it sound cooler, right?
Sounds way cool. Way cool. Make sure you follow them on Twitter, By Any Means Pod, and then Phil Robinson the third. Just search them, you'll find them. Raider Tahoe, Lowdown in Beijing, Mojo Raider on Pillaging Just for Fun. Mojo, we're gonna play a game of Madden soon. We're gonna get on the sticks. And neither one of us gets to use the Raiders. How about that?
That's fair, man. It's fair.
JB on Twitter and Sugar Ray Leonard Garcia Aspuria I'll put the sugar in there. But that's a hell of a name, Ray. For Raider Ramble and Will McLaren, thanks for the follow, man. We appreciate you. Shout outs, Shay. You got a shout out?
Oh, man, as always, shouting out my lady, man. She's working hard, man. She's exhausted, but she's keeping it going. Shout out to you, brother.
Shout out to you.
Yeah, man. You're doing big things, man. You're doing big things, and we'll ride the wave with you, bro. We'll ride the wave with you, man.
I just appreciate all the support. I appreciate the partnership that we have, Yeah. Che and Kane, this is cool.
This is dope, man.
This would be really boring if it was just me by myself. just don't forget that.
You just playing both takes? You just play all 3 takes all by yourself? Hey, man, with all those voices you got, you can do it. You can do it.
My voices are...
You just have a 3-way chat with Gruden and Mel Kiper and Kenny Stapler.
Shout out a Raider fan in your life. Who's another Raider fan in your life?
I mean, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of Raider fans.
Who's the first Raider fan?
First Raider fan that I would say that jumps in my head is my brother, man.
There you go.
Yeah, because I taught him well. Shout out, Steve.
Does he play ball with you still?
Yeah, man. He's our go-to, man. He's our scorer, bro.
Yeah.
That's. I just try to figure out a way to get him the ball.
You guys still rocking the bandanas, the bandana boys?
I rock the bandana.
Okay.
He just puts the rubber band in his hair because he's got that long, silky straight hair.
That soul glow.
Yeah, he don't got that.
Soul glow.
He don't got the curly stuff like I got him in, but so he just rocks that little ponytail looking real Rico Suave out there. And throws up threes, get some buckets.
Nice. Well, that's it for this week's show, folks. Tune in every week on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher Radio. You can also find us now on the Speaker app on the Out of Pocket Podcast Network. Call in and leave a message to be played on air. 408-909-PJFF. Phone lines are always open. We do publish fan-submitted articles. We got some new writers on the site right now. 303 Raider holding it down. Our boy Chase is actually doing a write-up right now for us. And he's going to be posting that, I think, on Monday. It's going to be in-depth analysis of one of our linebackers. I'm not going to tell you who just yet. So stay tuned for that to post on pj4f.com.
Nice.
And got a new writer, Justin Robbins, who's yet to post. And then Tel Rufu, who's supposed to get back on the wagon here pretty soon and give us some good writing. So we got some more content coming out to you. And, of course, myself, Kenny Stapler, I'll be dropping an article probably sometime next week, both on pj4f.com and RaiderRamble.com. So check that out. Look forward to that. So, yeah, get dipped in your fresh pillaging gear. Go to pj4f.com/shop. We got one shirt on there right now. We got some coffee mugs and stuff like that for sale. So jump on, represent your favorite podcast, hold us down, help us out.
Yeah.
We're hungry.
We are. Starving, actually.
Starving.
I haven't had dinner yet.
So I'm Kenny Stapler, joined as always
by your boy Chet.
And we out here.
Peace.
Go Raiders.
Touchdown, Raiders! Like a freight train coming, you're blowing the town. Like a diesel motor, you never shut down. With your pistons pumping, you're mowing them down. It's a sight to see, they all lay their money down. When you're gone, mama, hell, you ain't acting right. When you're gone, mama, I can still see your eyes. When you're gone, mama, this'll be my last goodbye. When you're gone, gone, when the sky is gray and the night sets in, it's your cue to do it all again. Until the next time I hear your name, right beside you now, my thoughts to remain. When you're gone, mama, I'll be missing you. When you're gone, mama, I can still see your eyes.